Hey guys, so today I'm going to look at the equation of a line when the slope is a fraction. I know you had some of this for homework already, but they were very simple fractions and some of you may have found it quite difficult to simplify. So I'm going to do a little video on it and set you some more work on it, and hopefully it'll just become a little bit clearer. Okay, you'll see on your solutions for homework that there was two questions that I just left out because I want to do them in the video so that we completely understand how to go about doing these, okay, or where my answers came from. Okay, and you'll notice on the solutions as well that I have kind of two answers that you could have. So we know that we can write this in the format y equals to mx plus c, and the other way we can write it is ax plus by plus c equals to 0. So I've done that for your homework. If you look on the solutions, I've done it for all of them just so that you know whether your answer is right or wrong. Okay, so first thing we start off by doing is labeling our points. So we're going to label them x1 and y1, and we have our slope there. So let's go ahead and substitute in. So we have y minus y1, which is 2, equals m, which is going to be minus 1 in this case, and then I have x minus 3, and that's going to matter because minus gives me a plus. So y minus 2, just going to write it all out again, minus 1, x plus 3. Okay, let's go ahead and multiply in that minus 1. So y minus 2 equals minus 1x, which is minus x. And minus 1 by plus 3 gives me minus 3. Okay, let's just make that smaller to make it a little bit easier for me to write. So let's go ahead then and write it in our two formats. So let's start with the first one. If I'm going to write it as this format here, I'm going to need everything except for the y on the right hand side. So when I write it like that, I get y equals, I need to bring over that minus 2, so I get minus x minus 3, and minus 2 when you bring it over becomes plus 2, so I get y equals minus x minus 3 plus 2 gives me minus 1, and you can leave that exactly how it is. That's your final answer if you write it in that format. If I write it in the ax plus by plus c format, then what I can see there is that everything needs to go on the left hand side of the equal sign. So if I bring all of these across the other side, then I get x plus y minus 2, and I bring over my minus 3, that becomes plus 3, and I let it all equal to 0, and then I get x plus y minus 2 plus 3 gives me plus 1 equals 0, and that's my final answer. Okay, the next question then that I left out of the solutions was one that had a fraction as the slope. So let's have a look at that. So let's go ahead and substitute. So I have y minus y1, which is 8 minus 8, is equal to minus a third, and I have x minus x1, which is 2. I'm going to go ahead and simplify here and bring in this minus a third into the bracket. So I have y plus 8, because minus by minus gives me plus, equals minus a third by x gives me minus 1/3 x, and then minus a third by minus 2 gives me plus 2/3. Okay, now fractions aren't ideal when we're looking at the equation of a line. So ideally I want to get rid of the thirds here, and the best way of doing that in this case is to multiply the whole thing by 3. So I go ahead and multiply that whole line by 3 just to get rid of the thirds on the bottom. Okay, so if I go ahead and do that, then I get 3 by y gives me 3y. 3 by 8 gives me plus 24, equals 3 by a third gives me minus 1x. I'm just going to leave the 1 there for now. And then 2/3 multiplied by 3 gives me plus 2. Okay, and it just gets rid of the fraction, makes things an awful lot simpler for us. Okay, then let's go ahead then and write it in our two formats that we were talking about. So the first format, y equals mx plus 3. Okay, so I'm going to have just 3y on the left hand side. I have minus 1x plus 2, and then I'm going to have minus 24 when I bring it across. That's going to leave me with 3y equals minus 1x plus 2 minus 24 gives me minus 22. Okay, now not finished yet. The last part of this question here, or the last thing that we need to do, is just divide everything by 3 the whole way across. So that gives me y equals minus a third x minus, and I'm just going to leave that as 22 over 3. If I write it in the other format, just going to change my color here. So if I write it in the other format, which was ax plus by plus c is equal to 0, then of this here, I'm going to need to bring all of this over to the other side. Okay, so that'll give me plus x plus 3y plus 24. So I'm just writing everything that I have just here. Okay, and then I have to bring across minus 2 equals 0. And then I get x plus 3y plus 24 minus 2 gives me plus 22 equals 0. And that's my final answer. So I can either write it in this way or this way. Okay, depending on what the question asks, and if the question doesn't ask, you can just write it whichever way you want. Okay, so now all I'm going to do is just work through another one where you have a slope that's a fraction, but also a negative fraction, because I know that can cause a little bit of confusion sometimes. Okay, let's go ahead then. We know then the equation of a line, you can always get that from your log tables. Y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. It's always handy to just write that down as well, so the examiner knows you knew what you had to do, which might get you some points. Okay, so again, label our points, x1, y1, and go ahead then and substitute. So when I substitute those points, I have y minus y1 is 4 equals, my slope is minus 3 over 4, and then I have x minus 6. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and multiply in that minus 3/4. Just makes it a little bit easier. I have minus 3 over 4 x, and then I have 6 by minus 3 over 4. Well, 6 by minus 3 over 4 will give me plus, because it's minus 6. And then I have 18 over 4. And I'm going to leave it as a top heavy fraction, because you know already that what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to multiply that whole line by 4 just to get rid of the fraction, because I don't really like having a fraction, okay, as part of my equation. So when I do that, I get 4y minus 16 equals, when I multiply 3/4 minus 3/4 by 4, I get minus 3x. And then when I multiply 18 over 4 by 4, I get plus 18. Okay, I'm just going to write it as ax plus by plus c equals 0 for now. Alright, so I get, when I am going to do that, I'm going to have to bring all of this here over the far side. So what I'm going to get then is I'm going to get 3x plus 4y minus 16 minus 18 equals 0. And just to simplify that further, 3x plus 4y minus 34 equals 0. And that's my final answer. That's my equation of the line.